Hello dear learners, I am Dr. Alphons Sebastian, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Sri Narayanaguru Open University. And today we'll discuss Block 2 of Unit 1, detailed poetry section of the course Post-Colonial Studies offered in the 4th sem of a MA English, Language and Literature program. Let's begin by understanding the context of post-colonial literature. Post-colonial literature seeks to address the cultural, political and social legacies of colonialism. It often grapples with the themes of identity, resistance and cultural hybridity. In this unit, we'll discuss the key themes of post-colonial literature as reflected in the 3 poems by Purdy, Walcott and Oodgeroo Noonuccal. We will analyze how these poets from different parts of the world use their poetry to address issues stemming from their unique post-colonial contexts. We'll explore how they deal with themes of identity, history and unity and discuss their poetic strategies. So let's begin with the first poem. But before we dive into the poem, let's take a moment to appreciate the poet Purdy. Born in 1918 in Ontario, Purdy is one of Canada's most beloved poets, known for his down-to-earth style and deep connection to the Canadian landscape. His work often reflects on the complexities of love, nature and everyday life, capturing both the beauty and struggles of rural existence. Purdy's poetry feels accessible and real, often infused with humor and warmth, making it resonate with a wide audience. Now that we have explored the life of Purdy, let's turn our attention to his poem, Married Man's Song, which intricately examines the complexities of love, fidelity, and the passage of time through the eyes of a long married middle-aged man. In the opening stanza, the middle-aged man reflects on his experiences of making love to a younger woman. He ponders the contrast between the fleeting nature of love and the mundane lives of desk clerks, suggesting that lovers enjoy a brief moment of vitality while others fade away. In the next stanza, as neon lights illuminate the young woman, the room and its past, the guests seem to disappear. The man sees her as a goddess, embodying beauty and complexity. He recognizes her youth and beauty, yet feels a disconnect, struggling to express these feelings to his wife. Later, in the 3rd stanza, when the man and the woman encounter each other socially, they maintain a polite demeanor. Although they share a past intimacy, they act like mere acquaintances, highlighting the tension between their past connection and their present roles in the society. The 4th stanza reflects on the rarity of passionate moments among married men. The poem raises questions about whether these men should be praised for their fidelity or seen as foolish for missing out on life's magical experiences. The ambiguity suggests a deeper complexity in human relationships. In the final stanza of the poem, the perspective shifts to a broader view of life. The poem suggests that while death is an inevitable part of existence, it is life itself that poses the greatest challenges. The imagery of the universe and everyday life emphasizes the cost we pay for our own experiences. In the concluding lines, the poem conveys a sense of resignation. Life continues despite its hardships, and the imagery of a ghostly sun symbolizes fading memories. The darkness represents what is lost, suggesting that often what remains in our lives is overshadowed by what we cannot hold on to. The poem can be seen as a metaphor for Canada's struggle to define its national identity while still influenced by its colonial history. The speaker's frustration with his role as a married man parallels Canada's unfulfilled aspirations to carve out a unique identity separate from its colonial legacy, much like the dissatisfaction expressed by the speaker. Having explored the intricate themes of love and fidelity in Purdy's Married Man song, let's shift our focus to another profound piece of poetry by Derek Walcott. As we talk about Derek Walcott, it's important to note that he was a renowned Caribbean poet, playwright, and visual artist, celebrated for his exploration of themes such as identity, history, and culture. Born in the eastern Caribbean island nation, St. Lucia, in 1930, Walcott's work often reflects his rich cultural heritage and the complex history of Caribbean, drawing on both personal and collective experiences. Now let's explore one of his notable poems, The Sea is History, the second poem in this unit. Through the poem, Walcott takes us on a poetic voyage into the depths of Caribbean heritage and the enduring legacy of colonization. Walcott's powerful imagery and profound symbolism transport us to a realm where the sea holds the untold stories of struggle, resilience, and the quest for identity. Derek Walcott's The Sea is History explores the idea that the true history of Caribbean is found not in the books or monuments, but submerged in the sea. The poem opens with a question. Where are your monuments, your battles, martyrs? And the speaker points to the sea, asserting that the Caribbean's history is hidden in the depths, locked away like a vault in the sea. Walcott compares the beginning of Caribbean history to the biblical story of Genesis, using the image of a European ship like a lantern at the end of a tunnel, representing the arrival of colonial powers. This marks the start of a painful history of slavery and exploitation, likened to the Exodus, as enslaved Africans were transported from across Atlantic, suffering in inhumane conditions to the Americas. The poet vividly describes how the bones of the enslaved became part of the ocean's flow, soldiered by coral. That's what he writes in the poem, a haunting metaphor for how their legacy is embedded in the very environments of the Caribbean. The sea, in a way, becomes the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred repository of this forgotten history. Walcott frequently uses biblical imagery to show how the sea witnessed the tragedies of colonization, slavery, and natural disasters. He questions why, unlike Europe, the Caribbean has no visible renaissance. The answer he suggests is that it remains buried beneath the ocean floor, waiting to be uncovered. As we move through the poem, Walcott takes us on a journey to the depths of the sea, where the coral and underwater caves serve as the Caribbean's cathedrals and memorials. Instead of grand historical monuments, and the region's history is embedded in the natural world, subtle, submerged, and intertwined with the environment. Later in the poem, the speaker reflects on the fleeting nature of emancipation, describing the moment of freedom as a jubilant but brief celebration. It's compared to sea, the form of the sea that vanishes as quickly as it appears, emphasizing that while emancipation was significant, it did not resolve the deeper, more complex history of the Caribbean. The final stanzas bring us to the present, where the speaker critiques the superficial changes in post-colonial society. Images of flies, frogs, and fireflies in the poem represent the new governing systems that do not fully address the region's historical pain. The poem concludes with the sound of history really beginning, but it is described as a rumor without an echo, suggesting that true recognition of Caribbean history is still elusive. Walcott, through the poem, suggests that history in a post-colonial context is complex and often overlooked by traditional Western narratives. By using the sea as a metaphor, he argues that the true history of the Caribbean lies in the submerged experiences of its people, challenging the Western tendency to ignore and marginalize these histories. Walcott's poem explores the hidden narratives of a people whose history has often been submerged and overlooked, reminding us of the importance of reclaiming and acknowledging lost stories. This theme of history, identity, and the struggle for recognition extends beyond the Caribbean and resonates with other indigenous voices around the world. Let's now move on to the last poem in our unit. It's a poem by the poet Oodgeroo Noonuccal, an Aboriginal Australian poet and activist. Noonuccal was a poet whose life and work left an everlasting impact on the Aboriginal rights, literature, and education in Australia. As a poet, artist, writer, and a political activist, she used her voice and talents to advocate for social justice and equality. In her poem, All One Race, she expresses a powerful call for unity and equality, highlighting the shared humanity across cultures and races. Much like Walcott, Noonuccal's poetry challenges historical exclusion and urges us to reconsider how we understand identity, culture, and justice. In All One Race, Noonuccal presents a powerful message about unity, equality, and the shared humanity across races. The poem opens with the lines, "Black tribe, yellow tribe, red, white, or brown, from where the sun jumps up to where it goes down," immediately setting a global stage. She emphasizes that despite our racial and cultural differences, we are all part of one human family. Through these lines, she questions the reasons for conflict and division, asking, "All one family, so why make wars?" Noonuccal uses simple yet effective rhymes, giving the poem a rhythmic and almost musical flow. Her rhyme scheme, seen in the lines like, "They're not interested in Brumby runs, we don't hanker after midnight suns," adds to the accessibility of the poem, making its message of unity easy to grasp and remember. The poet continues to emphasize that while people from different parts of the world may differ in customs and interests, such as igloos or kangaroos, these differences should not be a source of division. She boldly declares, "I am international and never mind tribes," urging us to move beyond narrow racial cultural boundaries and embrace our common humanity. In the second stanza of the poem, she extends this idea even further, reminding us that from the torrid equator to the icefield spread, all people, regardless of location, are part of the same human family. Again, she uses rhyme to reinforce her points, with phrases like "Monsignors and Seniors, Lubras and Fros," underscoring the diversity of people across the world, yet ultimately concluding with the same question: so why family rows? Ultimately, Oodgeroo Noonuccal's All One Race is a celebration of humanity's diversity, but also a call for unity. Her use of rhyme and accessible language makes the poem resonate with readers of all ages, while her message urges us to reject divisions based on race or place. Instead, she calls for a recognition that we are all one race, one human family, with the concluding lines, "I am for all humanity, all one race." Noonuccal leaves us with a strong reminder of her message that in a world too often divided by race, culture, we must remember that we are all part of one family, one race, and that is humanity. Noonuccal's call for unity serves as a powerful response to the diverse legacy of colonialism, which sought to categorize and control people based on race. Her use of the word family signifies a vision of a united, inclusive post-colonial world, where all people are recognized as part of a global human family, rejecting the divisions imposed by colonial powers. So, we have discussed 3 poems from this unit. As we wrap up today's discussion, I encourage you to reflect on the insights we have gained from the poetry of Purdy, Derek Walcott, and Oodgeroo Noonuccal. Each of these poets offers a unique perspective on identity and the impact of the past on our present lives. Purdy invites us to consider the complexities of personal relationships in a society shaped by its colonial history, while Walcott's vivid imagery helps us uncover the hidden history of the Caribbean, illustrating that the lasting effects of colonialism on its people and culture. Meanwhile, Noonuccal's powerful call for unity reminds us that despite our differences, we are all part of a shared humanity. Together, these voices highlight the importance of empathy and understanding in a world that often feels divided. Thank you so much for being part of this discussion. I hope you continue to explore these themes as you engage with literature and the world around you. Thanks again for joining.